All right, welcome to our Smart Growth and Safe Returns seminar. We have the honor to be here with you guys today. We'll be covering some basic financial concepts that are going to lead to that smart growth as well as those safe returns that we all want. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story. I'll tell you a little bit about our company's story. Mario, our second speaker, will be covering also some fundamentals. He'll go into a little bit more detail. But we're definitely going to get technical today. And potentially we will have some Q&A. So stay tuned. So let's get started. So welcome. Our company and a little bit about our company is COR Financial Partners, but I'll tell you how I got started in our company. I am one of the co-founders, but I got started in the industry for about 13 years ago, close to 13 years ago. And I used to be in healthcare before. One of the reasons why I got into healthcare was because I wanted my career to have significance and impact. And I started climbing the ladder in corporate America. But I also realized that the more I climbed the ladder, I started working with C-level executives, directors, and I didn't really get to help people as much as I wanted to. I didn't get to have that fulfillment in my career as much as I wanted to. So about close to 13 years ago, I got introduced to our products, our services. And I partner up with an individual who co-founded our broker with us. And essentially, what I learned was some financial concepts that I'll share with you, but also that made me realize a few things. Made me realize, number one, that I was getting my master's degree in business and I had no idea how to grow my money. I had a 401k that I've been using for years and I had no idea how to grow my money either. And so I also realized I started asking around. I started asking my coworkers, my family, some friends, and I noticed that it was across the board that people didn't know too much about what to do with their money. They knew how to make money, but they didn't know how to manage it, how to protect it, and how to grow it. So I really understood that not only I needed to know for myself, but I also needed to know for other people. I got a sense of responsibility that I wanted to make an impact, that I wanted to actually provide that financial education. And I love that we get to do this seminars because it's really about that. It's about education. It's about understanding our options for our money and how we could maximize our money for our retirement, to create a legacy, to protect our assets. And that's really what we want to emphasize today. So today I'm one of the senior partners with the organization. I get to help people across the country protect their assets, protect their families, but also plan for their future. I think that a lot of times when it comes to financial planning, most people are not planning to fail, they're failing to plan, and that's where we come into place. We want to give you a GPS for your money so that you understand where it's going to take you and what purpose does it have in your overall portfolio and your lifestyle and your financial goals, but most importantly, that it's going to get you there to the finish line. So let's continue on. And so a little bit more about our company. We have that strength in selection. We have a lot of different carriers and companies that we do business with. And it's such a treat to be able to give that opportunity and options for our clients. We have many different companies here. By the way, these are just some of our premier providers. We have so many different providers as well that are not listed here, but I'm sure you have seen some of these companies, you've seen them in commercials, you're familiar with some of them, or perhaps you already have them in your portfolio. But there's going to be, three main areas that we specialize and we focus on. One of them is going to be wealth accumulation. So if you're here because you are in your contribution accumulation phase of your life, you're putting money away and you need to plan for that future, maybe that is the conversation that we need to have. But maybe it's about retirement planning. Maybe it's about planning for your retirement. It's not that you're already there in retirement, but you're planning for it. Business planning. emphasize and we focus with business owners to save money on taxes, to maximize also opportunities to expand their businesses and to protect their businesses as well. And Head Start plans is going to be college funds or plans for kids, not necessarily for college, but to give a head start to a child that they don't necessarily have to worry about money in the future, but this happens in the contribution accumulation phase. Now, there's another part of our focus is the wealth preservation side. That wealth preservation is going to be more creating pension plans with our own savings. Mario Fragomeno is going to be touching a little bit more on that, but essentially is preserving our wealth. We worked so hard over the years to accumulate our wealth, and what do we need to do to be able to protect our assets, and most importantly, make sure that it's going to last us for the rest of our life, that we're not going to outlive our money. Last but not least, proper protection, family protection, legacy, life insurance, long-term care, one of my personal specialties. And I love this area because a lot of times people only think about life insurance as protection and that's it. There's so many different ways and features that life insurance has today to be able to complement a plan, not only with long-term care protection, living benefits, but also potential for cash accumulation. So there's so many different ways. And we do have our referral partners as well that we partner up on the legal side and estate planning and all of that. But essentially, this is us in a nutshell. Now, what I wanted to focus on today, as I mentioned at the beginning of this call, is more high-level, basic fundamentals, basic financial concepts. I think that is extremely important for us to be able to plan ahead, understand where we are, what we have, and what's missing, so that we could really bridge the gap. And what I've noticed over the years in my career in the industry is that, you know, people don't know what they don't know. And if you don't know something, then the likelihood of you, being familiar with a concept or asking about the concept is not going to be there because you just don't know about it. However, when we take that educational approach and we're actually helping people understand these products and services, what I realize is that people are just getting more empowered to take control of their finances. And I think that, again, today, in today's age and time, we definitely need to make sure that we do that. And I'll tell you why in a second. So, but let's talk a little bit more about, essentially that reason why. And this is happening across the board in a lot of different, just across the board in every single state, I would say. But essentially, this personal shift to or that shift to personal responsibility. This is what you see here on the screen is what we call the three-legged stool. This is what it used to be the sources of retirement and of income, right? And so the problem is that this stool is broken, and for a lot of us, it's not going to be an option to have this three legs in the stool overall. Well, we have to be counting on that, and we have to make sure that we're creating that personal shift and that personal responsibility, because number one source of income, Social Security. I don't know if you've heard about this, but studies show what's going on with Social Security is that it's going to be depleted in the next 12 to 13 years, potentially sooner. And if that happens, well, for a lot of us, we can't count on Social Security to be our only source of income. In fact, some of my clients today, Social Security income is not enough. Now, the second source of income in this stool used to be pension plans. Pension plans, almost only about 10% of the population in America has access to a pension. So if you're on the call and you have access to a pension, you are part of that 10%. And you also, if you're on the call and you're not, well, 90% of us who don't have access to a pension. You have to work for the government, the state, the city, firefighters, police officers, teachers, they have access to pensions. But also, even with the pension, is not enough. And so that third leg in that stool comes down to personal savings, that personal responsibility that I'm talking about. The fact that we need to make sure that we will take care of our own selves, because we've saved money, enough money. And look, I know that when things are expensive or because things are expensive, it feels like it's harder than ever. But I'm here to tell you that it is possible with a little bit of budgeting, a little bit of adjusting on where you're allocating your resources. I assure you that it can be done because it's attainable for all of us. We just need a little bit of planning. That's all it is. And look, this is a crazy statistic because out of all the retirees currently, that is a lot of them currently, only close to 7% of them have these three sources of income. That means everyone else that is currently in retirement, they only have one or two sources of income, not all three. And that might be Social Security and their personal savings, or Social Security and pension, maybe not savings. And so the question is, what do we need to do to be able to get there and to make sure that we are going to be comfortable in retirement? Well, we need to know exactly how money works, right? And so if we need to know and understand how money works, this is a basic concept that changed my perspective about money completely. If you've already familiar with compound interest, awesome. I hope you're using this rule to double your money and compound your money. But if you're not familiar with this concept, I'm here to tell you that you gotta make your money work harder than you do for your money. And this concept essentially is showing us the mathematical formula. If you get 1% of your money and you divide that number into 72, that will give us the amount of years to double our money, right? And so if we have a 1% on our money, by the way, we don't even get that in a savings account. Well, 72 years to double a lump sum of money is a long time. Same idea here at a 4%, that takes 18 years to double our money. We need it sooner than that. And so when it comes to a higher return on our money, that means we're doubling our money faster. By the way, just kind of the idea of talking about interest and higher returns, we're thinking, well, yeah, of course, our money is going to double faster, it's going to grow faster. But the biggest question I get asked when I show this is not the perspective of understanding that we need to make interest on our money, but is where do I get that interest? How can I actually save money and invest my money so that it could grow for me? And I'm here to share with you this three basic kind of areas, because every area here that I'm sharing with you has different types of accounts in each category. So each category is going to do something completely different for you. And that's where diversification comes into place. That's where having multiple eggs and multiple baskets is where it comes from. Hey, don't put all your eggs in one basket. This is what I'm talking about here to my clients. And so fixed accounts are going to be accounts that are going to be at a bank, a savings account, a checking account, maybe a high yield savings. Those accounts that are going to be for emergencies, for our day-to-day. They're not gaining too much money because they're not growing our money, but they are keeping our money safe and accessible. The type of the variable, the category in the middle, variable accounts are going to be 401ks, IRAs, TSPs, 457s, brokerage accounts, anything that has to do with the stock market. If you are in the stock market and it is invested, because you could be in an IRA, but it's not in the stock market. So that's where we actually check out statements, make sure that things are invested. A lot of times what I also notice is that people are looking at their overall balance, but they're not looking at anything else in their statement. And so sometimes people get surprised that they haven't been investing or creating that upside potential in this account just simply because it hasn't really been invested. It's in a type of account, but it's not invested. Now with this account, so we also have, yes, great upside potential, but great risk. So if you're here on this call and you're thinking, I want smart growth, but safe returns, most importantly, I want to make sure that I'm saving my money or I'm putting my money in a place where I'm not losing money. This is where index accounts come into place, where you have the best of both worlds. And that's what we focus our seminar today about smart growth and safe returns. That smart growth is in a place where you could actually see your money grow, that it's not going to have that volatility, but also those safe returns that you could lock in the gains and keep what you've already earned. So those type of solutions, index accounts, we could actually be here another an hour, 2 hours, talk about those type of accounts. I promise I won't do that. I'm almost done with my part. But index accounts are going to be two types of categories. Index accounts are going to have, we're going to have accounts that are going to help you accumulate and create and contribute. So your years of growth. So those accounts are going to be for growth purposes. But also we have index accounts that are going to help you in your distribution years, in the years that you need to make sure that you're not going to outlive your money, that you're going to have income for the rest of your life guaranteed. And so two options for two types of accounts or two types of clients, depending on our goals, our financial, depending on our financial goals, our financial solutions are going to be determined based on that. And we tailor each plan for each individual. So when it comes to index solutions, I'm going to actually transition now into actually taxes as well, because a lot of times what people are not aware is that they're going to be paying too much in taxes, or they're going to be exposed to volatility. And what we're trying to prevent is that volatility and so much exposure in taxes in some of these accounts, and especially on the contribution side. So to reduce the impact of taxes, we need to understand which category my money is in. So if I go back, I'm going to see 3 different categories. You got to make sure that we check all of them out. But also on this category, we also want to make sure that we're diversified, that we have some money that is going to be taxed every year. And that could be a savings account, checking account, money markets, non-retirement accounts. Tax later accounts are going to be those accounts that are qualified retirement accounts for later, deferred compensation plans, pension plans. And also we got to ask that question of, do we have any accounts that are going to be tax-free, that I'm not going to actually pay taxes on the growth of my money? And so here are some municipal bonds, Roth IRAs, and Roth 401ks, and Index Universal Life, which I'll touch on this category specifically, because if we're going to help you with smart growth, we want to make sure that you're saving money on taxes. And so what are those tax-free solutions? Here they are. Roth IRAs is one of those categories. It's still in the variable category, but it grows your money tax-free. You pay taxes now, so you don't have to pay taxes ever again. Yes, there are some limitations, but it depends on each person, each situation. The limitations are that you could only put a certain amount of money a year, 7,049 years or younger, 8,050 years or older. There's a catch-up period, but also you must qualify. If you make a certain amount of money a year or income a year, then again, that's going to prevent you from qualifying to contribute to this account. Now, these two are my favorite. The second account is going to be an Index Universal Life, or also known as an account with the Internal Revenue Code 7702, which allows this account to use life insurance as a wealth building tool. I mentioned index accounts for contribution accumulation purposes. This is one of those options. I also mentioned, hey, a lot of times people only know life insurance as protection, legacy, and that's it. What if you could use that account while you're alive for tax-free and tax advantage money? But also, what if you could use that account for living benefits or long-term care to protect yourself and protect your assets from having to tap into your assets if in case of a condition? And so these two are my favorite because you have upside potential with Roth, you have a variable solution, but also you have an index account that could help you hedge against volatility and against taxes. Now, today, I'm not going to go into the details of this. Today, as I mentioned, I want to keep it high level. I want to give you fundamentals because I know Mario is really going to touch on those, again, that smart growth and safe returns in a different category in the distribution side. So if you want to learn more about contribution accumulation products, definitely stay to the end. We have not only our QR that you could scan, set up a consultation, but I will pass it to our next speaker. Thank you so much for connecting with us today. And I know Mario is going to close us out with amazing information. Again, Mario, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Angie, for tons of value, and appreciate everyone connecting to our flagship series, which we like to call Smart Growth and Safe Returns. Before I get into the technical side, let me spend the next 30 seconds a little bit about my background. So I'm here physically located in San Diego, California, but I did grow up in Pasadena, which is in Los Angeles County. I'm about 100 miles north of San Diego County here in Southern California. So my original background is civil engineering. I graduated in 2006. And as some of you may remember, the housing boom was going absolutely crazy. So I actually got recruited from an engineering firm based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. They wanted to capture this big West Coast boom. So I went from Pasadena to Orange County, down to San Diego, young engineer ready to take over the world. I did civil engineering for over a decade, but it wasn't my calling. I was unhappy with that career. I was part of a mentorship program, and it was my mentor, Dave, that told me during lunch one day, Mario, have you ever considered a career in financial services? And I did it. I didn't know anything about the industry. I started talking to him about it at lunch. I said, you know what you're saying makes sense to me. Let me look into it. And my big wake-up call during that lunch was Dave was asking me some basic financial questions that I had no idea about, right? I did have my 401k, and the only reason why I really did my 401k, honestly, is because after I got hired, I brought my human resource paperwork to my mom, and she told me, oh, they have a retirement plan, do your 401k. And this is typically someone's first introduction into investing, right? We do it because we know we need to save, we need to invest, and our employer makes it very simple for us by checking this box. Also, some employers do offer a match and some profit sharing. So that's exactly what I did. So I looked into it, fell in love with the industry, transitioned careers from civil engineering into financial planning. Fast forward, today I'm one of the senior partners, co-founders of COR Financial Partners. But enough about me. Let's really get into it, all right? Because in today's environment, it is what we are calling uncharted territories when it comes to the U.S. stock market, okay? But to go over this again, most people have fixed, they have variable, they have no idea that the indexing strategy exists. And I was one of them, right? I did fixed through my bank. I bank at Chase. You might bank at Wells Fargo, Bank of America, wherever you bank. My fixed account, I have a savings account, CD account, gaining interest. But I know I'm not going to make that much. I'm not going to keep up with inflation, but I keep it there for emergency savings. But I definitely have my money invested in the stock market. Stock market has created a lot of wealth for Americans. And right now, the stock market is at pretty much record highs or near record highs, depending on the intraday value or even the close. Okay. But meeting with hundreds of clients, when we introduce this indexing crediting strategy, they are blown away. They don't even know that it exists until meeting with licensed financial professionals like us. And we introduce this crediting strategy, and we let people know, look, this is what a lot of our clients are doing. Millions of dollars are being allocated toward this strategy, but you're not doing it because you just don't know that exists. Okay, so we're going to go why it exists, how it exists. And I love this index strategy, especially for people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, when they're in a moment of life where there's so much uncertainty, especially in the US economy right now. If you look at what's going on, wow, we have record debt. We have record credit card debt, record auto loan debt. The real estate market's frozen. We have, I believe, like 3 to 4 active wars worldwide. Inflation is coming back up. So people don't know what to do. But where we come in is we show them, look, let's stay in the stock market. Let's grab a portion and let's protect it. If the stock market continues to go up, well, then we can make money. But if it starts going down, which a lot of people are anticipating should happen in the next 1 to 2, 3 months, especially with high inflation and high employment, which is that scary word of stagflation. Okay. So how exactly do we do it? Okay. We always recommend for a portion of our clients' assets to do an index annuity. But a question we get a lot is, well, what is an index annuity? Where does it fall in relation to what I currently have? And this was the same exact question of my aunt, my current client that I was working with a couple of weeks ago. She is now getting ready for retirement. She had a 401k IRA from a previous employer. She never took a look at it because life got busy like all of us. So we did a statement review, and what we noticed in her 401k is that she was sitting in a money market account. And then the next question is, well, why are you in money market? Aren't you invested in the stock market? And we hear this all the time from clients. I don't know. This is what my employer did. But remember, your employer, they're not investment managers, they're not advisors. They're simply going to enroll you and then let the account go. So that's exactly what happened to my aunt. So we're looking at her 401k and say, how do you feel about index annuity? She goes, hey, I never heard about it. I say, okay, let's explain it. Let's see how it works. Right now, you have a money market account. You're not going to lose money, but you're also not going to make money. And there's trillions of dollars sitting in money market accounts, sitting in CDs for people that don't want to take on risk. However, when we're in a high inflation environment and we're all feeling it, the price of goods has gotten quite expensive the past 5 years. The government's telling us it's gotten more expensive by 20 to 25%. I feel like that number is 50%. People need to make money on their money. However, they don't want to be open to the 100% risk of the stock market. And that was her thing. She said, look, I like the stock market, but I remember the stock market goes down. I don't want to lose money anymore. I'm in my 50s. I'm getting closer to retirement. And I said, you know what? A perfect solution for your situation is what we specialize in, where we customize and tailor it. It's called index annuity. This is where it falls into relation to what you have already. You have a money market, so we're going to get a better rate of return, but we're not going to open up to the risk of the stock market. She goes, okay, well, I'm interested. How exactly does an index annuity work? And this is what we went over. Okay. I told her index annuities work darn well. And one of the main reasons is because of the interest rates of the country. Okay. If you're not familiar with where interest rates are, they're actually at a 20 to 25-year high. The interest rates of the United States was at zero at one point after the big crash of 2008, 2009. The government eventually raised it. Then we hit COVID. They dropped interest rates all the way down to zero. And you might remember where inflation came in at 9%, the government freaked out. They shot interest rates all the way from 0 to 5.5%. Now, high interest rates are fantastic for index annuities. I'm going to show you in a little bit why. Okay. But high interest rates can't stay high forever. The government is starting to lower interest rates. Okay. They actually officially did it today. As you can see from the headline, the Federal Reserve officially cut interest rates by 0.25 points in their second interest rate cut of 2025. As you can see from the chart here, they're projected to drop interest rates even more. So this is why we've been hosting workshops, reaching out to clients, reaching out to potential clients, because we want to lock in the high interest rate. So if you ever talk to somebody that has a mortgage and you ask them what the interest rate is on their mortgage, and they might have been fortunate to lock in the 2.5, 3 to 3.5% mortgage rate, well, that's because rates were very low. That benefits the mortgage market. But we're in a high interest rate environment, which benefits high interest rates and what exactly we're doing. Okay. So we have a typical client here. They have $300,000. And this is how we protect it. It could be 100,000, 200,000, 500,000. It's a portion of somebody's assets. So we grab this 300,000, okay? We move it into a savings account with a investment company. Okay, so all we're doing is reallocating money from one account to another account. But in an index annuity, this is protected 100%. Okay, so this 300,000 is going to go into a savings account. It's going to get credited based on the performance of an index. Most clients like to connect it to the S&P 500, the largest 500 companies in the United States, right? It's a great indicator of where we are as a country. Even though about 493 companies aren't doing so well, we have the top Magnificent Seven that are absolutely crushing it. So S&P 500 is doing quite well, okay? But we all understand that it's a variable investment. Stock market goes up, but it also goes down. And there's many points in history where it does go down, right? We don't have to look too far back. If we look at the start of 2025, stock market was down almost 20%. Then we look back at COVID. Stock market dropped 50%. Then we had trade tensions with China during the first presidential Trump's administration in 2018. Stock market didn't like that. Then we had the big crash in 2008, 2009. So everyone knows that the stock market goes up, but it also goes down. But people in their 50s and 60s, they're more focused on protecting their assets. So this is why we do this strategy, because when the market goes up, they're going to make money, which is fantastic. However, when the stock market goes down, imagine the feeling that our clients have. And I asked them, it's a wonderful feeling. It's complete peace of mind, right? This is why we call it smart growth, safe returns, because you're growing with the market, but at the same time, you're protecting your assets. So when the stock market goes negative, these accounts have what's called a guaranteed floor, meaning the value of the account will never go negative. Okay. They'll cap your upside at 8.5%. Some do 9%, some do no cap. The average right now is about 8.5%. So let's play this over 4 years. First year, stock market does 7%. The account's going to get credited 7%. More importantly, the stock market drops, it goes negative 12%. Peace of mind, not going to lose any money. Okay. The following year, stock market goes up 5%. You're making 5% on the high water mark. Okay. So the first year you had 300,000, you made 7%. Market dropped 12%, you locked in that gain. Market goes up 5%, you make 5% on the high water mark. Okay. Once again, market drops 20%. People are freaking out. People are going crazy, panic selling. CNBC, Fox News Business, they love when the market drops because they know they have eyeballs on the screen. They're flashing red. They're talking about next recession. Their economy is going to crash. People, a 20% drop could easily turn into a 30, if not a 50% drop, especially in today's economy. Well, this is how we develop that peace of mind. So imagine working your whole life, you're saving, investing, you have a lump sum of money, and you know you could protect a portion of it 100% guaranteed using this strategy. And we do this on a weekly basis with our clients. Okay. Now, most of our clients say, this sounds good. I never heard of this. Is there a catch? What's going on here? How come my human resources never told me about it? How come I don't see it on television? Well, it really comes down to people only know what they know. So by sitting down with people that are experts and specialists in index annuities, this is how we work with the client. So we let the client know, look, your money's going to be protected, but you have to work with the investment company. Okay, the way we work with them is you have to sign the agreement. That agreement could be 5 years, 7 years, or 10 years. Most clients do 10 years. We do have a long-term retirement focus. Okay, we're not traders. We're not trying to double your money, triple your money overnight. We're looking for an honest 5 to 7% on your money with no risk and also no management fees. And this is a big one in our industry. Okay, people that I sit down with, they tell me, hey, Mario, I'm only paying 0.5 to 1% management fee. That's not a high fee. Then I do the math with them and say, well, client, you have $700,000. If we do a 1% fee, you're paying $7,000 a year in management fees. We could eliminate that $7,000, leave that in your account, and then it's going to compound and grow, and you're going to end up with a lot more money than paying fees for management. So these companies say, look, if you sign an agreement with us, we'll waive the management fee. At the same time, they'll let you access the account up to 10% after the first year. So if any emergencies come up, maybe you need a down payment on an investment property, or maybe you're thinking, you know what, my RMDs are here because the IRS is telling me I must withdraw from these accounts. Well, the investment company lets you liquidate the account penalty free. Okay. And there's a death benefit. So if you're thinking, well, this sounds so good to be true, what if I pass away prematurely? Does my family get the money? They do. Okay. That's a big myth when it comes to index annuities. If someone passes away prematurely, the family actually gets a death benefit. They get the value of the account. So if you're playing this over 10 years, okay, we have $300,000, assuming a 5.5% rate of return, and that's what we're looking to get. Okay, this is more of a bond alternative. It's not a stock market alternative. We're not looking to get the 10, 15, 20%. Better though, we're looking to not lose 5, 10, 15%. And based on historical performance, this strategy is going to get you 5 to 7% on your money. So we did a asset allocation of $300,000 over 10 years based on historical performance. That account is now $563,000 with zero risk and zero fees. Okay, pretty darn amazing. And because of high interest rates, these companies are getting quite aggressive for the consumer. And we'll take advantage of these companies getting aggressive. What do I mean by that? What these companies are doing right now is they're offering people guaranteed income for life. They're saying, look, we understand that society doesn't have a pension anymore, that the data shows that only 1 out of 10 Americans have a pension. That means 90% of us have to save and invest for our own retirement. But they know that Americans love pensions. Who doesn't, right? Like I have an uncle, I just saw him today. He came over to visit. He worked for the city of Chula Vista for over 20 years. He has a guaranteed pension through the city. He never has to worry about not receiving a retirement paycheck. What's great though, because of high interest rates, these companies say, you know what? We could guarantee you a personal pension plan where you always get a retirement paycheck. Okay, so we're taking advantage of these high rates. How exactly does that work? Okay, so let me show you. So we call it guaranteed income for life. Okay, we're taking advantage of interest rates. One of the great things, like Angie mentioned, is we are independent. We get to have professional strategic relationships with different A-rated financial companies so that we could find the best rates of returns for our clients. So an A-rated company, Fidelity, F&G, they're offering right now 7.2% a year guaranteed no matter what happens in the stock market. Okay, if the stock market stays flat, you make 7.2%. If the stock market goes negative, you make 7.2%. If the stock market makes 3 to 4%, you make 7.2%. This is why my aunt was so fired up, is because she was sitting in a money market account making zero. She didn't want to be in the stock market where she could lose money. And then we structured her IRA to get her 7.2% a year guaranteed for the next 12 years. And then she could turn on a retirement paycheck for the rest of her life. Extremely popular in today's environment. Okay. But this is F&G. We also work with a company called Global Atlantic. Right now, they're offering 15% a year every single year for the next 20 years, simple interest. This is us taking advantage of high interest rates, right? As I was mentioning before, where Americans were taking advantage of low interest rates to lock in a 30-year or 15-year fixed mortgage at record rates. Now we could lock in guaranteed retirement paycheck at record rates with this company that's offering 15%. Okay. What they're also doing is they're listening to the consumer. They're understanding the need for long-term care. And this is a serious conversation that we have with a lot of clients. You know, the reality is the medical industry in the United States is the most expensive in the world, and it costs a lot of money. Okay. I know the Fragomeno family went through this recently. Our grandfather needed long-term care, and that bill that they were sending the Fragomeno family, that could put a lot of people in financial ruin. You know, thank God that my grandfather actually had long-term care coverage. So it helped pay for that, but a lot of Americans don't have it. So what these companies say is, look, when you're receiving your retirement paycheck for life, if you need long-term care, we'll double that retirement paycheck for up to 5 years. Zero underwriting, zero, it doesn't matter what your health is. If you qualify and you do this program, they're going to 2 times your retirement paycheck for up to 5 years if you need long-term care. Okay. So let's do a live illustration on how exactly this income rider works in today's environment, because this is so popular that I want to share it because interest rates are going down, right? So we need to lock in these high interest rates because I already know we're going to start getting emails from these companies saying, look, interest rates are going down. Okay. So this is how we do it. So this is Global Atlantic. Once again, F&G does it, Athene does it. A lot of these companies do it. But this is how we're able to illustrate and show what these accounts should do. So let's stick with the 300,000. Okay. What's great about the payment for life, if you're married and have a wife or husband or partner, you could actually do the retirement paycheck on 2 lives if that's what you wanted to do. So if you pass away prematurely, and your spouse is still alive, they will receive the retirement paycheck for life. Okay, since it's based on 2 people, the monthly amount won't be as high, but that's an option that we're willing to set up and we could structure for you. But in this case, let's do single election. Let's do it on 1 life. Okay, I'm going to use my aunt's age because I just helped her out. She's 57 and she wants to wait to the age of 67 to start taking income. Now, you don't have to wait 10 years. The companies let you start receiving the retirement paycheck after the first year. So if you're already retired right now, or if in your 70s, don't think like, wait a minute, I got to wait till the age of 80. No, only 1 year to turn on your retirement paycheck for the rest of your life. Okay. So I'm just going to hit next here. And what I love about this is notice how these companies are actually using the word guaranteed. It's one of the few times we could use the word guaranteed in financial services. Okay. The reason why we're able to use it is we're signing legal agreements with A-rated financial companies, and they're telling you as a client, we're going to pay you 15% a year, simple interest every single year for the next 20 years. So you can see in this example, we did 300,000. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. We did 300,000. Clients are going to get 15% every single year for the next 20 years. So 15% of 300,000, that's going to be $45,000 every single year. Zero risk, guaranteed. Then notice the level life payment amount here. Okay. This is the amount of money that you'll get every single year for the rest of your life when you decide to turn on income. So like Social Security, the longer you wait, the more your account appreciates, the higher your retirement paycheck for life could be. I told the calculator to do 10 years, so it's highlighting 10 years. So we know for certainty, guaranteed, no questions asked, a $300,000 investment will turn into a guaranteed $750,000. And then Global Atlantic will pay you $43,000 a year every single year for the rest of your life. So if you're worried about outliving your money, this is how we do it. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, hit that subscribe button today. And if you're ready to take the next steps, feel free to schedule a discovery meeting with COR Financial Partners. Until next time, take care and keep building smart.